I realized that in certain issues, we can allow certain people to decide, even though they are not the loudest. And furthermore, when I used to think that the leader is the one that is more important, or rather that there are different levels of respect that should be given. And if you are a more high-ranking person than me in the church ministry, then I would need to respect the person more. You know, call the person by the correct name, call pastor, for example. But then when we look at the Bible and we look at Apollos and Paul, and when Paul was teaching the early church, because the early church had that trend where some of them said that they want to follow Paul. Paul is the one. Some of them said, I want to follow Apollos. Apollos is the one. And they began to trust and focus on the leader instead. And Paul said to them, who is Apollos and who is Paul? And he said that Paul planted, Apollos watered, and God is the one that made the plant grow. And what Paul was trying to say, I guess, was that Apollos and Paul, they did different things at different times. And maybe when the rest of us see them, we think that, wow, Paul is more important because his contribution is that great. And maybe Apollos is not so important because his contribution is smaller. But Paul is saying that God does not see it that way. To God, it's just about who is playing which part. And God is the focus. God is the true leader in any team. And in the team, even though you may decide for an issue and I may decide for another issue, or you may serve, or in this issue we are a more supporting role, but in God's eyes, we are all equal. We are still equally loved and still equally important. So I realized that whatever I thought about was very deeply rooted in the Bible, especially in the early church.
你这样讲就给我想到那个身体的功能啊，就是手它主要是用的功能就是拿东西，眼睛主要功能是看东西，脚主要功能是走路，所以不同功能在发挥不同肢体在发挥不同功能的时候，它并不是特别厉害，我可以拿东西我就特别厉害，我可以走路就特别厉害，我可以看东西就特别厉害，而是我在那个时间点需要用到我的这个功能，我就发挥我那个功能。所以当大家都在不同的肢体发挥不同功能的时候，就不会凸显某个特别的肢体啊，就会看到整个人我荣胜，而不是看到荣胜的手特别厉害啊。所以我觉得刚才这样讲是一个很重要的提醒，就是身体帮助我们能够隐藏在耶稣里面，让耶稣不会就让耶稣凸显，不是凸显我们自己这个人啊。
It's true, but I had a problem in the past. Maybe I was, let's say, an eye, but I always wish I could be a hand.
Okay, yeah.
I always felt that the eye is not so useful. Maybe I was an ear, I felt that the ear is not so useful. The hand is so useful. The hand can take things. The hands can, shield the body. The hand can make a lot of things happen. Whereas the ear has to wait. The ear only collects information, whereas the hand is more active. So I used to always admire certain people for their giftings. And I wish that I had the same giftings. For example, we have a common ministry, which is we used to spend a lot of time translating on stage. Whenever I translated on stage, I took pride in it. I felt that I was of a certain skill. At one time, maybe I was the best in the ministry, but that underneath, I was very insecure about myself. Like I will compare myself to other translators. I will perhaps look at Joseph and I say, oh, Joseph, well, he translates so well. But never mind. At least he translates from English to Chinese and I translate from Chinese to English. So he can't do without me. So I still have some use. So he may be better than me, but I am still essential in the ministry. But when someone who came up, who also translated from Chinese to English, when I see that person, I will compare. And I would think, is that person going to be better than me? And sometimes that comparison will make me feel jealous, or may even make me feel like I want to look down on the person. I want to criticize the person like, oh, we may be doing the same job, but I think I do better than you. Maybe this area are pretty good, but I think overall I'm better than you. And because of that, I can have a dislike towards you because I'm competing with you. That made it very difficult for me to work with people sometimes because I constantly had to feel that I am useful. Once I stopped feeling useful, or once I felt that others can replace me or be better than me in some area, I would feel rejected. So I only could work with certain types of people. So what happened was that I just had to realize that when we say that in the body, everyone is important, that applied to me also. I didn't realize that. I said it, I thought about it, but actually I always felt that I was not so important. Sometimes I would also feel that others had giftings that I wanted for myself because those giftings are important. For example, I always admired people who I felt could hear God very well. So that's one reason, that's one way in which I always admired you all. You are older than me, and I always felt, well, if only
我们只
I
是大一点点嘛，一点点。
Well, be that as it may, but I always felt that when you guys are able to hear God and I'm not able to, I look down on myself even more. But the Bible tells us that God has given gifts to everyone. And like Rongsen said, in the body, all the parts are important. So my part is also important, even though my part may not be the one that is at the front, may not be the one that other people think is important. But in God's eyes, my part is important. And when I was able to see that, then I was really able to work in a team. Because I was no longer trying to criticize people just to make myself feel better. I can look at you and admire your giftings and say that, wow, you're really good. In this area, you're better than me. Because I realize what's important is that the body is important, not me. I don't need to make myself feel valued because I'm already valued.
对。
And because of that, I'm also able to work with people whose giftings are not so useful. Because in the past, I may think it's not useful, but actually, in God's eyes, they are really useful. And when I was older and older, I began to see it more and more. For example, one thing I always admired about Joseph or about Rongsen is how much time you all spend with people. I always admire how you all can just sit down and make time to drink tea with people. I think that's not so important. It's more important to think and plan for the ministry. But I'm older. I realize how important it is to build relationships with people. Relationships drive, or they are the engine of the ministry. Without relationship, the ministry goes nowhere. Without relationship, our life goes nowhere. Then I began to value you and people like you. There may be even some people, the only thing they do is just to eat with people and to drink with, and to have tea with people to build relationship. They don't know how to plan, they don't know how to preach, they don't know how to listen from God so well, perhaps. They don't know how to pray so well. All they know how to do is to eat with people and care for them. Now when I'm older, when I realize that I don't have to compete, then I can just really say that this person, you are so important. What you do is so important, even though it looks like such a small thing. So this is what I've realized about the body concept in my few years of serving in the church.
当你这样讲，我就看到每一个肢体都是重要的，每一个肢体都有价值，然后每一个肢体呢是彼此需要，就好像 2只手都是重要，都是彼此需要，他们不是彼此竞争。当右手被蚊子叮到，不可能用右手去打那个蚊子，而是左手去帮忙打蚊子。所以以前呢，那些跟我有共同恩赐的，以前我会觉得他们就好像是不单是我学习的榜样，也是我竞争的榜样，或者是不是竞争的榜样，竞争的对象，就会像你这样，我要比他更厉害，然后要跟他比赛。但是后来我发现到有这个身体的观念的时候，他们是我学习的榜样，他们也是我彼此需要的对象。就好像我们大家都有在台上分享及讲道。当我遇到挑战的时候，我不能够讲道的时候，我就需要你们的帮助，你们呢就能够进来补足。当我不能够讲道的时候，当我不能够分享的时候，当然还有其他的恩赐，也有其他的才干，我就看到这个是身体功能的很美好的地方在这里。
对，我就想到，因为我其中一个服事是6位事工，就是做招待的，就是看起来有些时候会觉得台下跟台上，台下看起来没有这么重要，可是有些时候在默默在服事的时候，其实也是在整个身体里面是扮演一个蛮重要角色的一块。所以可能有些是负责握手欢迎新朋友，有些时候有些人是预备圣餐，就好像有一组人是专门是很早来就预备圣餐的那些饼跟杯，这些都是一些看起来默默不起眼，但是如果它不存在的时候，你就发现很重要。那个礼拜如果是圣餐的时候，可是却没有圣餐的那个饼跟杯在台前的时候，大家就会问，为什么没有圣餐？可是看起来是不起眼的东西，但是其实它是一个很重要，是一个能够帮助整个身体变得更完整的一个东西啦。所以不是做的东西起不起，而是大家都重要，只要你发挥你的功能，你就能够使到整个身体受益了。这个是我学到一个很重要的东西，不是看我做的有没有被很多人看见，而是我是否有在帮助在整个身体的建立起来了。这个是我学习更重要的东西。
Yes, it's true. It makes me remember that Ronson has been doing the Levites job for many years. And I used to think that Levites is a very uncool ministry. I used to tell myself I would never join that ministry. But now when I'm older, I realize how important that ministry is. And knowing the giftings and feeling secure in myself helps me to serve in those areas that others may feel is unimportant. It helps me to serve in those areas that other people may not see, since every area is important.
对，而且当提到那个招待的事工，我就听到一个很感人的一个见证，有一位姐妹已经决定好，这是真实的一个见证，她决定好，她当天她想要自杀。不过呢，她决定给耶稣一次机会，她就来到教会里面，结果那个招待员对她的那个微笑及对她的那个的握手，竟然神使用那个招待员就感动了她，她就决定她那一天晚上她不要自杀，反而她还决定她要相信耶稣。我就看到原来每一个的肢体在神的身体里面都有自己的岗位，都有神要成就美好的事在当中了。
Yes, indeed. Amen. God can use anybody. And I guess that's it for the body concept.